I'd like to declare this regular council meeting to order. Before we proceed, I want to ask Councillor Flagg if he would read the land acknowledgement, please.
This evening we acknowledge that the land upon which we are gathered is the traditional territory of the Adirondack, the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe people. We are the beneficiaries of ancient agreements such as the dish with one spoon between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, who agreed to share the abundance of the land through peace, friendship, and mutual respect. The two were wampum, by which the Haudenosaunee welcomed the settlers and agreed to share the land in mutual respect, and the Treaty of Niagara, considered a fundamental document by the First Nations in all future relations and treaties with the Bridges. We recognize that we have the responsibility to be stewards of this land in cooperation and collaboration with the Indigenous people, not only for one generation, but for all generations to come. We understand that we have an obligation to learn the lessons of our history, educate ourselves about the experiences of the Indigenous people, and seek opportunities to heal the wounds that will result in reconciliation with our Indigenous sisters and brothers. Many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people live and work in Fort Erie. We stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wide stewardship of the lands on which we live. We have the good fortune to live in a land of such abundance, diversity, and beauty. Let us be vigilant in protecting Turtle Island.
Thank you. Would you all please rise for the invocation?
We meet to serve our community and endeavor to be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Let us be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chamber minds that think and hearts that feel, so that in our deliberations we may display imagination, wisdom, and courage, and the will to do our work for the good of all.
Thank you. And the roll call, Madam Deputy Clerk.
All members of council are present, with the exception of Councillor Dubanow and Regional Councillor Encina.
Thank you. So there is one addendum. Actually, there's a couple, but it's all in one form. Addendum 1 is the removal of one of the presentations and delegations. That's Rick Boyvan. I will be circulating to members of council his presentation, which went slightly beyond our rules, but is important in terms of the affordability and attainability for housing in our community. And the body of the motion that I'm bringing forward is also now part of the agenda. With respect to announcements, I want to make reference to a number of proclamations that we're making this evening. They're part of the consent agenda and don't always get the profile that they need, but there's some interesting proclamations this evening, the first of which is the CN Rail Safety Week, which is September 23rd to 29th. There's also Miranda's Miracle Fund, which is sponsoring and requesting September as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. There's also the Arthritis Society. September is Arthritis Awareness Month. There's the Royal Canadian Legion, which is requesting that we proclaim Legion Week, September 15th to 21st. And then finally, there's Polycystic Kidney Disease Awareness Day, which is September the 4th, 2024. And I want to acknowledge that we have here in the council chamber this evening, Barb Hampel and her husband Wayne, her sister Carolyn, and friends Sue and Matt to support this. And I presume that all of these proclamations will be approved by members of council. With respect to some other announcements, we have the famous end of summer parade scheduled for Crystal Beach next Saturday, August the 31st, starting at 1 p.m. It's a fantastic tradition which generations, literally generations of residents of Crystal Beach and Ridgeway, I think, participate in. I've had the opportunity to be in it many, many times. And at the end of the parade, usually Old Man Summer is buried. Sometimes shocking who Old Man Summer turns out to be, but always interesting. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully the weather will be good. It's supposed to be. Next Monday is, a week from Monday, is Labor Day. And with Labor Day, the formal end of the summer and the beginning of the school year the following day. So I want to urge everyone, every motorist in particular, to be cautious of the fact that children will now be out and about. They'll be walking the sidewalks, they'll be crossing the streets, And it's important for us to be aware of the fact that they're there, we're the adults, we need to be paying attention so that if we're driving anywhere near a school or near an area where there's a playground or children, we need to exercise caution and ensure that the students remain safe in our community. Declarations of pecuniary interest. Councillor Christensen.
Yes, Your Worship. On bylaw item 18.2, 84-2024, I have a pecuniary interest.
And it's because you are a councillor over the age where you can contribute to OMERS.
That's correct.
Thank you. Councillor McDermott.
Yes, Your Worship, I have the same conflict.
Thank you. And Madam Clerk, as do I. I unfortunately happen to be over the age I can contribute to OMERS. I'd much prefer to be under the age, but such is life. So I'm going to declare a pecuniary interest for that. And at the time that we deal with that, I'm going to ask Councillor Lewis to assume the chair for the reading of that particular bylaw. Okay. That takes us then to notice of upcoming public meetings, of which there are none. The regional councillor is unavailable this evening, so there'll be no regional councillor report. Presentations and delegations, one has been removed from the agenda, which takes us to Wendy Tremblay, manager of the Fort Erie SPCA. Assistant.
Yes.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor Redekop, members of council, and esteemed guests. Thank you for allowing me to speak today about an important initiative for our community. My name is Wendy Tremblay, manager of the Fort Erie SPCA, and joining me is Mark Dixon, our assistant manager. We are excited to announce the opening of our spay and neuter clinic with basic care. The clinic will play a crucial role in promoting responsible pet ownership and reducing the number of homeless pets by providing accessible and affordable spay and neuter and wellness service. We aim to enhance animal welfare and help reduce the strain on local shelters. Our community has a deep connection with our pets, and this clinic is a response to the needs and concerns expressed by our residents. It's not just about controlling the pet population, it's about creating a safer and healthier environment for everyone. This project has been made possible thanks to the collaboration and support of PetSmart Charities, Ontario SPCA, donors, and the hard work of our dedicated staff. Their dedication to animal welfare and the well-being of our community has been truly inspiring. We are thrilled to invite you to the ribbon cutting ceremony for the clinic, which will take place September 27th at 6 o'clock at our shelter on Jarvis Street. Your presence would be a great honor and a wonderful opportunity to showcase our collective commitment to this cause. Thank you for your time and support. We look forward to celebrating this milestone with you and working together to make our community an even better place for both our residents and their pets. Thank you. Do you have any questions?
I get to ask that.
Oh, sorry. We'll just take a break.
Council have any questions? Thank you very much for your presentation. Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop, to Wendy. Thank you for your presentation and your assistant, Mark, too. What would be the cost to the individuals?
We have a list here. It ranges from $140 to $390 from cats to the biggest dog.
Cats are $140, male or female, spay or neuter, and dogs based on their body weight. But it is very affordable. Dogs, like I said, like what they're saying, sorry, from $250 to $390.
Okay.
Well below what the vets are charging.
Those rates do, I think, are very competitive too, which is great. Will the clinic provide any other services besides?
We are trying to get into a wellness day where they can come and do shots, get their heart pulled for heartworm, and add end-of-life services as well, because people are in need of that. And
They can get the rabies vaccines, all the vaccinations they get through us, a lot more affordable than at the vets as well.
Yeah.
We're almost at half the price. Flea, tick, heartworm prevention and deworming is all available. Heartworm and tick-borne disease testing. Microchips are available. We offer a full service right now with the clinic.
Very impressive, thank you.
Any other members of council? Thank you very much for bringing this to our attention. And September the 27th is a Friday.
yes,
And so hopefully we'll be able to make it out there and take a look at the improvements and changes that have been made to the
Yeah, that'd be
facility
nice.
since then. So I'm sure you're accommodating that. And yeah, this is good news for the community, and we appreciate your work on this.
Thanks.
Thank
Have a
you.
good night.
Thank you. So that takes us to public meetings, of which there are none. And now the consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone wishes removed from the consent agenda? If not, Councillor Christensen, you have the resolution with respect to the consent agenda.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that council approves the consent agenda as recommended.
Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Flagg.
Thank you, Your Worship. Specifically on 11.3.4, the environmental committee minutes, I believe that there's a couple of those that are actual agendas, and the March agenda, or the March minutes indicate that there is supposed to be a meeting on April 9th, and I think that's an error as well. So I'm just hoping that we can get those clarified for the next meeting.
Yeah, has that been taken care of, Ms. Carter?
Yes, Mayor Redekop, we can bring that back to staff and have those amended.
Okay. Any other questions? Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. In regards to 11.2.1, the Rail Safety Week, and I'm always very concerned about that because it runs through Stevensville. I know, and Fort Erie, but and I didn't have a chance to talk to Mr. Walsh earlier about this, but we have done, the town has done an assessment on the safety issues and what needs to be improved, what needs to be changed. I think in collaboration with CN, if I'm not mistaken. And I know this has been ongoing for a while, and I don't know if there's been any formal or commitment to say, okay, you guys do this and we'll do that, and that will improve the safety of our railroad crossings. And I'm just wondering if Mr. Walsh could comment if there's any progress in that regard.
Mr. Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A number of years ago, just a few, we did engage in consultant for determine the requirements for whistle cessation at crossings for a number of them in Fort Erie. That report came back with a number of recommendations. We are in discussion with CN. They would like to see some survey requirements, so we're coordinating that with them right now. It's probably still into next spring before we can get any concrete response from them, but they haven't said no yet.
Thank you for that. The other thing that perhaps wasn't in the assessment is the, again, if my memory serves me right, there's supposed to be some clearing, like so when you're pulling up to a crossing, you're supposed to be able to see, I think it's 500 feet on either side. You're supposed to have a clear vision of the track on both your right and your left side. I know there's a number of places that don't have that. I know they have cleared, I think they actually did on East Avenue, I think they cleared that so that the vision's improved. But I think there's still a number of crossings where the vision does not meet the safety requirements. So just would encourage them to look at that. The other thing too is that maybe a year ago, maybe it's not that long ago, I brought up that there were 2 railroad crossings that were in horrendous shape in regards to going over basically if you had a motorcycle, you'd be flying. And they did eventually correct them, and I think they're fine now, and they look great. Don't get me wrong, but it took a substantial amount of time and effort, and I'm sure those are not the only 2 road crossings, railroad crossings. And I'm just wondering if what is their protocol to examine these railroad crossings?
So, Mr. Walsh, maybe you, with your contact with CN, perhaps you can raise both of those issues. Number one, what their information is with respect to the site clearance with respect to the various crossings in Fort Erie, and then secondly, what their protocol is with respect to correcting any deficiencies at the level crossings.
So in response to the first question, we do have that information in the report, the requirements for clearing. I don't know what the specific number is, and it changes site by site, actually. But certainly for the second question, we can contact CN.
Well, and perhaps you could circulate to Councillor Noyes the information in the report?
That's been presented to council already.
When was
She
that?
has it. 3 years ago?
Okay, in the last 3 years, there's been some vegetation growth, I'm thinking.
If I can put my 2 cents in here, we did get the information, but I don't think we necessarily got the work done for the crossings that were indicated that they were lacking. That's where I'm going with this, is that there's still a number. I know they did East Avenue, but I'm not sure if they've done all of them, or else there has been a huge increase in growth.
I'm not sure what they've done or
Haven't done.
have not done.
And that's what I want to know.
Okay.
Okay. Anything further, Councillor Noyes?
Yes, 11.3.2, it's Community Healthcare Services Advisory Committee. I've got to pull it up now because my computer turned off. I think it's great, the progress that they're making, but I have one question. 11.3.2. That, okay, and under new business, it talks about that the 3 new nurse practitioners, 2 social workers, and 1 physiotherapist. And I think it's wonderful, absolutely wonderful they're expanding. The part that I don't particularly agree with, that it's only limited to residents who have doctors in Fort Erie or Port Colborne. My doctor's in Niagara Falls, because I couldn't find a doctor in Fort Erie. So I'm wondering why it doesn't apply to all the residents of Fort Erie, regardless of whether their doctor is in Port Colborne or Fort Erie. Or maybe I'm reading it wrong, but that's what I'm reading into here, that your doctor has to be from Fort Erie or Port Colborne.
I'll ask Councillor Christensen to speak to that if she can.
The program that was approved and the proposal includes, I believe it's 7 organizations in the Niagara area. So other community health centers and family health teams have received funds through Bridges. So Bridges is administering an overall amount, and they received staffing dollars for staff in other communities. I don't know whether it supports your specific physician. The specific allocation to Port Colborne and Fort Erie for physicians outside of the participating organizations was an allocation by the Niagara, Ontario Health Team to help specifically physicians in Fort Erie and Port Colborne, not physicians elsewhere. And it was in response to an application that they made that wasn't successful. That's sort of clear.
That help?
Don't necessarily agree with it. I understand the timeline and how it came down, but it clearly says that we will now take referrals from local Fort Erie and Port Colborne physicians for their patients. So if you don't have a local physician, you're out of luck. Or if you don't have a physician at all, you're out of luck of accessing these services.
So these are allied health workers who have been made available through funding from Niagara, Niagara Ontario Health Team. And the purpose was to try to reduce the number of unattached residents who don't have access to a doctor. So my understanding is that their Bridges was part of a larger application that covered all of the community health centers in Niagara, and that this is the funding that was allocated to them. So there may very well be a health center that was funded that covers Niagara Falls doctors, or if that's where your physician is. These doctors, the Fort Erie and Port Colborne doctors can refer patients to this, to the social workers, et cetera. So if there's a doctor in Niagara Falls that has a patient, I presume that that's where they would be able to get this type of help if the CHC in Niagara Falls, as an example, received part of this funding.
And I can appreciate the limitations on the funding. I just don't agree that certain residents of Fort Erie that do not have a local physician, even if it is in Niagara Falls or their doctor is in St. Catharines, whatever, that they can't access physiotherapy or social work in this town because their doctor doesn't happen to live in this town or work in this town. I don't think, I would prefer that residents of Fort Erie that have a physician referral, I can see that the residents of Fort Erie be restricted to the residents of Fort Erie and Port Colborne. But to say it's restricted to the doctors in these two areas, I just don't agree with it. I think you're missing a number of residents whose doctor does not practice in Fort Erie or Niagara Falls.
Well, I'll ask for some clarification on that, and if that in fact is the case, then I don't think the criticism would be leveled at the Community Health Center. I think it would be the Niagara Ontario Health Team, which would be the one who provides the funding, or the Ontario Health Team, or whoever. So we'll get some background information on that and provide that to you, Councillor Noyes.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or comments? Mr. Walsh, I noticed in the Traffic Coordinating Committee minutes, there was a reference to signage on Black Creek Drive. Do you recall what that was about?
My apologies, Mayor. Without reading the report, I can't recall. I'd look to Councillor Noyes for maybe some guidance on this. It would ring my bell.
To be perfectly honest, I didn't think we had a Black Creek Drive. I'm trying to think, we have Black Creek Road.
Well, is that because, is that the problem, that it's
don't know.
designated as Black Creek Drive, Black Creek
Yes,
Road,
yes,
spelled
yes,
differently?
yes,
blah, blah.
that's what it is.
Yeah,
Yes.
and we received correspondence from a resident from Douglastown
Okay.
about that particular point.
Yeah, but I don't think it's Black Creek. I think it was River Trail, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
We have River Trail Crescent, we have River Trail something
Yeah.
else. I don't think it was Black Creek Road. That's,
Well, maybe we can get that clarified, and then you could confirm that. If there are no other questions with respect to the consent agenda, then I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Unopposed, that is carried. That takes us then to report CS 05-2024. Councillor Flagg, you have the resolution.
I do, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Noyes, that Council receives for information purposes report CS 05-2024 regarding the 2023 annual financial report as attached under Appendix 1 and published in accordance with Section 295 of the Municipal Act 2001, and further that Council amends the 2023 capital budget to include townwide office furniture upgrade TWFU 23 at a cost of $37,000 with funding from the Office Furniture and Equipment Reserve, and further that Council amends the 2023 capital budget to include cemetery utility vehicle GATR 23 at a cost of $18,000 with funding from the Fleet Equipment Replacement Reserve, and further that Council amends the 2023 budget to include facilities, water tank boiler, and fire panel replacements FATM 23 at a cost of $60,000 with funding of $16,000 from the Facilities Maintenance Reserve and $44,000 previously approved in funding from the Emergency Management Reserve, and further that Council directs staff to prepare the necessary bylaw to amend the capital asset policy to include asset retirement obligations as outlined in Appendix 3.
Thank you, Councillor Flagg. Before we deal with this, I just want to let you know, Ms. Hempel, that when we dealt with the consent agenda, the proclamation that you've requested has been approved, and so that's been taken care of. The reason I made reference to it specifically in the announcements is that when we do the consent agenda, we typically don't deal with these on a request-by-request basis. They're all listed in the consent agenda, so the proclamation has been approved, and you will be receiving something from my office. You're welcome. And if you folks want to leave, by all means, you're entitled to do that. But you can stay if you wish. It's just something we said. You're welcome. Okay, so report CS 05-2024 is on the floor. Are there any questions or comments? Mr. Jansen, I had, as you know, a few questions. And the first question had to do with the development charges, and what appears to be a significant discrepancy on page 39 and note 5 that deals with how much in development charges we actually received, how much we received during the year, and then how we account for all of the development charges that aren't reflected on page 28.
Certainly. Thank you. Off the top, I would just want to recognize we also have Carly Griffin here as manager of accounting, and she and her team have done an outstanding job getting us to this point where we can bring forward our audited statements. It certainly is a lot of work and reflects a lot of activity coordinated amongst the corporation for this. So just thank you to her. So for the development charges, the reason that the amount being recognized in the income statement and the revenue is different than elsewhere, and I have a couple of comments on that, is that it reflects the collections of the development charges aren't recognized as revenue until the related activities are incurred. So even though we may have development charge collections of a larger amount, we only recognize that out of deferred revenue, and forgive me for some accounting speak with that, but it's not recognized at a later time when the actual related costs are incurred. Similar in some ways to the way we deal with reserves. And then the other part of that is we would have two components to development charges. We have the amounts that we collect through supported by the background study of the development charges. And then we also, as a town, contribute amounts from our own levies and rates to that as well. So we have, for example, some exemptions for industrial that we fund from the town, not from the DC itself. So there are amounts, and as well, the other component on the income statement, the third item, would be that there's both operating and capital use of the DCs. So timing, type of use, and the fact that we have some that are town contributed versus developer contributed. Is that a long enough answer for you?
I'm just wondering if I asked Ms. Griffin if she'd give the same answer. No, thank you very much. I appreciate that. The other, on page 43 of the statement, there is a reference to work in progress, and it tells us what the work in progress was at the time the financial statements were made. Do we keep a record of the ongoing value of the work in progress, or the amount outstanding?
Yeah, we do. As projects are closed and capitalized during the year, we'll have a report coming forward in the fall in advance of the capital budget to do that. We typically otherwise just present the work in progress or WIP with the statements as audited. So, and it does fluctuate from year to year. This year in particular, we have a number of larger projects. I think it's 6 of which make up 15.5 million of the 25 million in WIP. So depending on the timing of the capital projects, which of course can take multiple years, the costs as work in progress will accumulate until such time the asset is in use, and then we capitalize it. So that's why you'll see a separate line for work in progress versus capital assets.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, the amendments to the capital asset policy, which include the asset retirement obligations, does make reference to the 3 BIAs because they're part of the consolidated statements. Will they be notified? I presume the library also will be notified that this policy has been amended?
Yes, that's a great point. We're actually working with the BIAs. I know the clerk's office right now with policies and procedures for BIAs. We do coordinate with the BIAs throughout the year with statements and so on, and to the extent that, if this would be helpful, important information, we don't, I think, suspect that they would have many of these, but we will communicate that with them. Thanks.
Thank you very much. And to your point, Director Jansen, Ms. Griffin's report, she prepared this report, is very reader-friendly, which is not always typical of accountants, so I want to congratulate her on that. Thank you very much. Any other questions arising out of any of my questions? Then all those in favor of the reporting recommendations? None opposed, that is carried. That then takes us to new business inquiries, and Councillor McDermott, you have a resolution with respect to the Conference Board of Canada Summit meeting.
Thank you, Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Christensen, that in accordance with the requirements of the expense allowance policy bylaw 142-06, as amended, Council authorizes Wayne H. Redekop to attend the Conference Board of Canada Canadian Immigration Summit 2024 on November 19th to 20th, 2024 at the Accenture Site College, La City, Ottawa, Ontario.
Just a little bit of background before you vote on this. I received email from the Conference Board of Canada about 6 weeks ago asking me if I would be interested in participating in the conference, making a presentation and participating as a panelist. Presumably they've heard about what's going on in Fort Erie in terms of diversity and inclusion. And so I have indicated to them that I'm interested in attending, provided my council lets me go. So that's the background on this, and I will call the question unless there's any other questions. All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Thank you very much. Should be a very interesting conference, and yeah, I'm just quite surprised, and I haven't even broken the news yet to the coalition, the Diversity and Inclusion Coalition yet, but I'm sure that they'll be quite delighted, and they will be able to help me a great deal in putting forward the presentation that I'll make. Okay, second item under new business inquiries is Councillor Noyes, you have a resolution regarding resignation by Charlene Nye.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Christensen, the council accepts the resignation of Charlene A. Nye from the Museum and Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee, and further that council directs staff to proceed with filling the vacancy in accordance with the procedural bylaw.
Are there any questions or comments? All those in, Councillor Noyes.
Yes, I just wanted to comment that Ms. Nye has been a strong advocate and participant in this particular committee. I can't remember when she wasn't on the committee, to be perfectly honest, and I think we're going to miss her wealth of knowledge and her enthusiasm for this committee. Thank you.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you, Councillor Noyes. You're quite correct. All those in favor of the resolution? None opposed, that is carried. And Madam Deputy Clerk, we do send correspondence to the individuals who resign and thank them for their service. Yeah. Okay, are there any other inquiries or items of new business that anyone wishes to raise this evening? If not, we're not going into closed session. There are no motions. There is a notice of motion which I had brought forward, and the addendum did outline what the motion is. So could I ask Councillor Christensen if you would take over the chair for this, please?
Yes, Your Worship. You've indicated a motion. We need a second.
Yeah, I need a seconder.
We need a seconder, Councillor Lewis.
Okay.
Care to speak to your motion?
Yeah, I'll read the resolution, the motion. Whereas ridership for the on-demand public transit system in Fort Erie has risen significantly since its introduction in October 2021, particularly in the east end of the town, and whereas the number of riders in the east end of the town warrants the introduction of a conventional bus route in that area, similar to the former green route, and whereas the on-demand system is still required throughout the town, even if a conventional service is added to Fort Erie's public transit, now therefore be it resolved that Council requests that the Niagara Transit Commission institute a conventional bus service for the east end of Fort Erie commencing in 2025, similar to the former green route which ran between the town hall hub east of the Niagara River, between Dominion Road in the south and Bowen Road in the north, taking into account where the most critical mass of riders within that area exists, and tailoring the new service to ensure cost-effective service, appropriate hours, and bus stop locations, a 1/2 hour loop if feasible, and all matters incidental thereto, and that the Niagara Transit Commission continues the on-demand service throughout Fort Erie to accommodate rider movement going out of or coming into the conventional bus service area and intermunicipal travel. And if I might, just very briefly, I'm sure we've all received complaints or concerns from residents with respect to the on-demand service, particularly now that the on-demand service has been amalgamated with the specialized service. And we believe that, when I say we, I mean Jennifer Penel-Agee, who's been working on this over some time, and maybe the rest of you, that there are sufficient riders now in the east end of the town where a return to a conventional service is possibly warranted. That doesn't eliminate the need for on-demand, because even if you're within the Green Route area, you still may want to go someplace else in Fort Erie, or somebody from another place in Fort Erie may want to come into this part of the town. And of course, those who are traveling out of the town still need to get to the hub. So tomorrow, the Niagara Transit Commission is holding a meeting. It will be looking at its capital budget and then starting to look at its operational budget. This is something that I've had discussion with the General Manager, Carla Stout, with respect to. She will need, if this is passed, she will need a copy of that resolution, Madam Deputy Clerk, to be sent to her first thing in the morning so that she has it. I will, of course, take a copy with me. But I think it's high time that we were able to at least improve further the service in this community. The ridership is up, not double, but it's approaching double since we went to the on-demand in October of 2021. So I hope that you folks will support this so that we can take this to the Niagara Transit Commission. And you'll notice that I'm focusing on it being cost-effective, that there being appropriate hours. So I'm not suggesting that necessarily be a conventional service from 7 in the morning until 9 at night, but whatever the most important hours might be, where the bus stops should be located, and we already have a number of them already located in this community. And the suggestion of a 1/2 hour loop, that may not be doable, but I think that's the target that we would look at so that there's greater movement and opportunities for residents.
Any questions? All in favor? Oh, sorry, Councillor McDermott.
I support your motion, Your Worship. I just want to mention that, the last time I talked about this, I talked about people being left behind. And again, apparently, this fellow that was left behind 5 times has been left a 6th time. Not sure how we lose people like that, but we can't afford to do that. I appreciate any motion that's going to make transit better. I think really we bought a pig in a poke here. The first thing we see is failures in the system. The next thing we see is 6% increases in the future. And I think it's very clear that what the people of this community need is similar to the hospital, just reliable, sustainable type of transportation in the area. And, we look at 6% increases. Are we going to get, is our transit going to be 6% better? And up to this point, it hasn't been. So any motion that you bring forward is welcomed by me and probably everybody else around here. Thank you.
Can I just get some clarification? That individual that you had spoken about at the last meeting and that you've just referenced now, is that a specialized transit passenger?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So I know that there's been some additional vehicles acquired, and there's supposed to be some further additional vehicles, but, and hopefully that will resolve it, but that's a little discouraging to hear that the same individual has again been missed. But I'll raise that tomorrow when I'm at the Transit Commission meeting.
Any other comments or questions? No. Call the motion. All in favor? That's approved. Thank you. I'll return the chair to you, Your Worship.
Thank you very much, Councillor Christensen. So there are, you know what, I skipped over motions. Okay, so notices of motion. Are there any notices of motion that anyone wishes to give this evening? If not, then that takes us to consideration of bylaws. Bylaw 84, 2024 has to be dealt with separately. And I indicated I was going to ask Councillor Lewis to chair that. Are there any other bylaws that anyone wishes removed? Councillor Noyes.
Yes, can I have bylaw number 18.3, 304 Ridge Road North?
That's bylaw 85, 2024, so we'll deal with that separately as well. Any others? So, Councillor Lewis, you have, okay, so if you get the bylaw package for first and second reading,
83 to 89.
you're right. So you'll have to hand off 84 to someone else when you get there, when we get there.
I don't have 84 in mind. Oh, for third and final reading. Gotcha.
Okay. So, Councillor Lewis, if you would proceed then, take out 85.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Christensen that bylaw package containing 83-2024 to amend zoning bylaw 12990 as amended 0-12054 Centralia Avenue North, 86-2024 to assume the stormwater management facility for South Coast Village Subdivision Phase 2, Plan 59M 430 Mars Homes, Crystal Beach Inc., Dan Gabriel, 87-2024 to authorize the entry into a Brownfields Tax Assistance Agreement with Niagara Boulevard Developments Inc., Stuart Wright, 237 Niagara Boulevard, 88-2024 to enact an amendment to the official plan adopted by bylaw 150-06 for the town of Fort Erie Planning Area Amendment 84, 0-17507 Netherby Road, Black Creek Signature Subdivision, Phase 2, Great Summit, Fort Erie Nominee Inc., Jessica Wang, owner, and 89-2024 to amend zoning bylaw 12990 as amended, 0-17507 Netherby Road, Black Creek, Signature Subdivision Phase 2 are given first and second reading.
All those in favor? That is carried. That bylaw package as amended is on the floor for any questions or comments. I do want to point out that earlier this afternoon, Ms. Dilwari and I met with Jessica Wang and one of her assistants to discuss the process with respect to the Black Creek Signature Subdivision, and they were very pleased with the process. We as a council were very pleased with the modifications that they were prepared to make in meeting some of our expectations, and you'll recall that they included the change up of some of the housing, the movement of the park, the trail, et cetera. And it was a very, I would say, encouraging meeting, and certainly the type of developer that we have a number in the community, but the ones that we like to work with who are prepared to not work off of just their vision, but work off of what we believe to be a vision for this community and the people that live in these various neighborhoods. So I just wanted to point that out to you folks. Are there any questions or comments with respect to the bylaws in the package? If not, then Councillor Noyes, you have the resolution for third and final reading, so it would be 83-2024 and 86-2024 to 89-2024, since 85 is being dealt with separately.
Thank you,
Pardon?
Mayor.
For first and second reading, yeah.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Christensen that bylaws number 83-2024, bylaw 86-2024 to bylaw 89-2024 inclusive are given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Are there any questions or comments? There are none. All those in favor? That is carried. Okay, so I'm going to go back to bylaw 85, and Councillor Lewis, I'm going to ask you to put that on the floor for first and second reading.
Bylaw number 85, 2024 is on the floor.
What you need to do is indicate that you're the mover, and your seconder was,
Oh,
is
okay.
it Councillor Christensen?
True. So that would be Councillor Christensen, yes, was the seconder for that. You still? Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Christensen that bylaw number 85, 2024 is given third and final reading? I don't have the paperwork on this one, so.
Oh, you don't have 85?
Flying, I
Yeah,
do
yeah,
not.
yeah, it was removed from, sorry?
So would this be first and second reading?
Yeah, do you have the, so you go back to, you've given the clerk, aha,
There we go.
you've disarmed yourself.
Moved by myself and
There we
seconded
go.
by Councillor Christensen that bylaw package containing 85-2024 to designate 304 Ridge Road North as being of cultural heritage value or interest.
Give them first and second reading.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor? Put it on the floor, all those in favor? Okay, so it's on the floor for questions or comments. Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor Redekop. As usual, I'm not going to, I understand that the owner is still not interested in the designation, and I haven't had a chance to speak to him, to be perfectly honest, but I understand that this is this is species, China shop that we're all probably familiar with, that have been here for many, many years. And I think his concern was about the use of the property behind the building itself, and that the cost of a heritage assessment for him to be able to do something on there could be anywhere between, I think, $5,000 to $10,000. I don't know if there's other costs, but I don't know if we've heard anything more from him, or if there's been any other contact with him, or if there's other concerns about that. I don't know if we've tried to contact him again, if there's been any dialogue, because I understand the cost. If he appeals this, he has the 30 days, I guess we get to change. If this goes to the OLT, we're looking at about a $20,000 cost to defend our position. So I'm just wondering if there's been any contacts, any discussions, any solutions, or are there other reasons he does not want this designation?
Ms. Dilwaria.
Your worship, through you to the councillor, we have tried to reach out to him. He has not been communicative. At the last council meeting, the direction that was provided to staff was, if a owner is not interested in designating the property, he should provide relevant material to council regarding why he's not interested in designating his property. We have tried to communicate that information to the owner. He has not provided any those required documents to us.
Councillor Noyes.
With all due respect, I think he told us. We had it in the first report. He's concerned that he cannot do what he's planning on doing to the rest of his property. He told us.
Well, the report indicated that the staff doesn't have any information as to what it is he's planning to do with the property, so they can't make any comment on what the implications of a designation might be.
Well, with all due respect, they did make a comment saying that if he wanted to do anything, he would have to get an assessment, a heritage assessment, which could cost up to $10,000. So yeah, there has been some dialogue here, and I don't know if there's other issues with that, but I don't think that we've really clarified this. I'm not saying that he's not putting his best foot forward in regards to contacting us and letting us know and perhaps doing some homework. But again, why is he, these old buildings are expensive to maintain also. And I'm probably going to be out of order here. There's another one that we were talking about.
Out of order. You are out of order.
But again, it's like, I don't know if we really look at the cost associated with some of the changes that may be required to improve the energy efficiency or anything else like that. I'm getting some information on that, but not particularly for this property. So I'm not going to approve this because we still really do not know, other than his concern about not having some restrictions on what he may do. He may not even know what he wants to do yet on the back of the property. That may be why he hasn't told the town. We just don't have enough information. I would hate for us to go and spend $20,000 and not be successful. I don't know if we can separate the building from the rest of the property, or just designate the building itself and not all the property. I think that's what we did on the Birdie. I think that's what we landed up doing, because he was also going to take us, he also didn't like the idea. But now, okay, we separated the building from the property. Is that a possibility here? Is it not a possibility? I don't know. So I can't support something that I don't have all the information on.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Councillor Noyes. The situation is that we don't know if there will be an appeal. If there is an appeal, there's always a time between the filing of the appeal, the assignment of a hearing date. So there's opportunities for further discussion along the way. and an opportunity perhaps for the owner to provide us with a fuller picture of what he might be wanting to do and what the implications might be. You'll also recall that I have asked staff to look into the program that we have to assist owners of designated properties with funding for any improvements that they have to make or repairs that they have to make to designated parts of the building, to include the cost of the reports they would require if they want to do any changes to the building.
If I can respond.
Sure.
I don't think his reference was referring to the changes to the building. I think it was use of the rest of the property. So if we start expanding this, maybe we should be just paying for everything. The banister that might be $20,000 instead of $10,000, and maybe we should pay for all the windows that need to be restored and by a special restorer. Maybe we just say, well, we'll cover all the costs, whatever they may be. I mean, where does this stop? If we're going to say, okay, yeah, we'll pay for this assessment, will we pay for the next assessment? We'll pay for, like, where do we draw the line here? I think we're already being very generous with $1,500 a year tax, up to $1,500 tax break. We've already had given an opportunity of up to $5,000 every 2 years for an expense up to $10,000, 50% of that. I think we have built-in incentives, but at what point do we draw the line and say, okay, this is as much as we're willing to do, because this is taxpayers' dollars we're spending. If we're spending it here, we're not going to spend it someplace else. I'm hoping that individuals who buy these properties love their property, will take good care of them, and I think historically that's what we've seen. Historically, people who buy these homes like these homes and take good care of them. But I'm not going to start saying, okay, yeah, but we'll pay for this and we'll pay for that. Yeah, we'll pay for that too. Well, why not pay for this? Why not pay for my new windows? Why not pay for my new roof? Where does it stop?
Okay, any other questions or comments? Councillor Noyes, you do have bylaw 85 for third and final reading. Did you want to put that on the floor, or would you prefer to have someone else do that?
Somebody else can do that. I'm not
Okay.
going to support. Can I have a registered vote for that one? Thank you.
Sure. Councillor Flagg, would you be prepared to move that, and Councillor Lewis, would you be prepared to second it? Okay, so bylaw 85, 2024, moved by Councillor Flagg, seconded by Councillor Lewis, is put on the floor for third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and council under the corporate seal. Any further questions or comments with respect to the bylaw? Madam Deputy Clerk, a recorded vote has been requested.
Councillor Christensen? Councillor Flagg?
In favor.
Councillor Lewis?
Yes, in favor?
Councillor McDermott?
No?
Councillor Noyes?
No?
And Mayor Redekop?
Yes.
That carries.
Okay, so then, Councillor Lewis, I'm going to hand the chair to you for bylaw 84, if you'd be so good.
Thank you, Your Worship.
And I understand
your
Councillor Flagg has
Oh, you
first and
I-
second reading.
I do.
I will need a seconder for that.
Got it over here.
Which? You will?
Councillor Noyes.
Oh, Councillor Noyes, thank you. Moved by myself and
I'm- You've got the chair, right? So I'm going to make the motion. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Noyes that bylaw 84, 2024 to amend bylaw 235-01 being a bylaw to authorize participation in OMER's pension plan is given first and second reading.
Thank you, Councillor Flagg. Any questions or comments to the bylaw that's on the floor? Seeing, yeah, so I'm just looking. There's no questions or comments. I'll call the questions. All those in favor? Sorry, one moment. Thank you. Do that, correct. Okay, so there are any questions or comments? Seeing none. don't see why. So I called the question to first and second reading. That passed. No one voted against. So now we're turning it back to you for third and final reading?
Sure. Moved by myself, seconded
Long morning.
by Councillor Noyes, that bylaw 84-2024 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and clerk under the corporate seal.
All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Back to you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lewis. Okay, so now that takes us to the confirmatory bylaw, and Councillor Christensen, you have the resolution for first and second reading.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that bylaw 90-2024 to confirm the actions of council at its council and committee meeting held on August 12th, 2024, and its council meeting held on August 26th, 2024 is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor McDermott, you have third and final reading?
Yes, thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Christensen, that bylaw 90-2024 is given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and clerk under the corporate seal.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That takes us to scheduling of meetings. Councillor Flagg.
Thank you, Your Worship. Thank you, Your Worship. September the 5th, Corporate and Community Services, 3 o'clock, Conference Room 2.
I'm sorry, what day was that?
The 5th, Thursday the 5th.
Okay. Any other meetings? So, you're all aware that the Niagara Transit Commission meets tomorrow afternoon, and I have a Property and Infrastructure Services Committee. Oh, sorry, that's the Parks Commission. Okay, if there are no other scheduling of meetings. Yeah, of course it does. So. Okay, mumble, 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 we got it all sorted out. Councillor Christensen.
On September the 4th, no, let me think. Yes, September the 4th at 10 a.m. At the Douglas Heights Senior Center, the Town of Fort Erie Seniors Advisory Committee will meet, and later that same day at 5:30 at the Crystal Ridge Library, the Ridgeway BIA will be meeting.
And Councillor Christensen, I noticed in the minutes of the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee, the continuing request about staff support.
Yes.
I'll be speaking to the CAO when he gets back later this week to see whether we can't get that dealt with.
Thank you, Your Worship.
You're welcome.
They keep asking.
Well, you know, we're looking for them to take a broader mandate.
Yes.
And so I think we need to provide them with that support. Okay, so because Councillor Dubanow isn't here, we have to stay until he comes to the next meeting. So I'm going to look to my right. Councillor Flagg, I'm going to ask you to move that we adjourn.
I'm not sure whether I'm worthy.
You are.
Am I? Okay.
Doesn't.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Lewis, that the council meeting ends at, or is adjourned at 7:01 to reconvene at the next regular council meeting.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is, oh, sorry. Okay, so in favor, opposed. You're going to wait. All right, and Councillor Lewis, feel free to wait there until September the 9th. Thank you, everyone.